Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Govardhana. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Govardhana. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. 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 Acharya Shrotara Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramhansa Parivrajika Acharya Shrotara Srimad Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vinda Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Chegaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopinatha Shama Kundagara Kundagiri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Gaura Premanandi Hari Bol Shama Bhaita Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaivam Narotaram Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayat Nasta Prayeshu Abhadireshu Nitim Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utamashloker Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 2nd chapter, text number 17. Is that right?
Yep.
Lokams Cha Lokanugatan Pashumsh Cha Hitva Shritas Te Charanata Patram Parasparam Tvadguna Bharasidhu Piyusha Diyapita Deha Dharmaha Lokamscha Lokanagutan Pasumscha Hitva Shritas Te Charanat Tapatram Parasparam Tvad Gunabhada Siddhu Piyushanira Yupitate Hadarmaha Lokamscha Lokanogatan Pashumscha Itva Shritaste Charanam Patam Parasparam Tvad Gunavara Siddhu Piyushaniya Pita Deha Dharmaha Lokamscha Lokanugata Pasamscha Vita Sridaste Charanapataranam Parasparam Tvad Gunavada Siddhu Piyusha Nitya Pita Deha Dharmaha Lokamscha Lokanugata Pashumscha Hitva Shritaste Charana Tapatram Parasparam Tvad Guna Vida Desha Piyusha Nirfata Deha Dharmaha. Ladies, anyone? Lokamscha Lokanugvatam Pashamscha Hitva Shritaste Charanata Patram Parasparam Tvad Gunavada Siddhu Piyushaniya Pita Deha Dharmaha. Word for word. Lokan, worldly. Worldly affairs. Cha, end. Loka anugatam, the followers of worldly affairs. Pashun, beastly. Cha, end. Hitva, having given up. Shritaha, taken shelter. Te, your. Charana, of lotus feet. Atapatram, the umbrella. parasparam, with one another. Tvat, your. Guna, of qualities. Vada, by discussion. Sidhu, intoxicating. Piyusha, by the nectar. Niryapita, extinguished. Dehadharmaha, the primary necessities of the body. Translation. However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and the beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of the material body. Responsibly. However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and the beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of the material body. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. After describing the necessity of material life, Kardama Muni asserts that marriage and other social affairs are stereotyped regulations for persons who are addicted to material sense enjoyment. The principles of animal life, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, are actually necessities of the body, but those who engage in transcendental Krishna consciousness, giving up all the stereotyped activities of this material world, are freed from social conventions. Conditioned souls are under the spell of material energy or eternal time, past, present, and future. But as soon as one engages in Krishna consciousness, he transcends the limits of past and present, and becomes situated in the eternal activities of the soul. One has to act in terms of the Vedic injunctions in order to enjoy material life. But those who have taken to the devotional service of the Lord are not afraid of the regulations of this material world. Such devotees do not care for the conventions of material activities. They boldly take to that shelter, which is like an umbrella against the sun of repeated birth and death. Constant transmigration of the soul from one body to another is the cause of suffering in material existence. This conditional life in material existence is called samsara. One may perform good work and take his birth in a very nice material condition, but the process under which birth and death take place is like a terrible fire. Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his prayer to the spiritual master, had described this. Samsara, or the repetition of birth and death, is compared to a forest fire. A forest fire takes place automatically, without anyone's endeavor, by the friction of dried wood, and no fire department or sympathetic person can extinguish it. The raging forest fire can be extinguished only when there is a constant downpour of water from a cloud. The cloud is compared to the mercy of the spiritual master. By the grace of the spiritual master, the cloud of the mercy of the personality of Godhead is brought in. And then only, when the rains of Krishna consciousness fall, can the fire of material existence be extinguished. This is also explained here. In order to find freedom from the stereotyped conditional life of material existence, one has to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, not in the manner in which the impersonalists indulge, but in devotional service, chanting and hearing of the activities of the Lord. Only then can one be freed from the actions and reactions of material existence. It is recommended here that one should give up the conditional life of this material world and the association of so-called civilized human beings who are simply following, in a polished way, the same stereotyped principles of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Chanting and hearing of the glories of the Lord is described here as Tvad Guna Vada Siddhu. Only by drinking the nectar of chanting and hearing the pastimes of the Lord can one forget the intoxication of material existence. The verse again. However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and the beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of the material body. Mukam karoti bachalam pangam langayate girim yatkari pataraham bande Shri Guru dinatarane. It's interesting that in the verse it said that the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities are realized in discussions, this is a quote, in discussions with one another, quote unquote. So it's necessary to discuss the activities of Krishna in association with one another. Association means talking about the pastimes of the Lord or things related to the Lord. And in a sense, there is no further obligation. It's said that in the 11th canto, that as soon as one is born, one is obligated. One is obligated to the demigods, to the great sages of yore, to the animals, to other human beings, all human beings in the world of the earth. We're all indebted, we're obligated. We should feel grateful that the water is being supplied, the air is being supplied, and we have very nice production from the earth in the terms of flowers and fruits and many other things. In 1977, Sarup Damodar, who had a PhD from University of California at Irvine and was a member of the GBC, said that he would like to leave Prabhupada's association and go to his Assam or wherever he is from to observe the death ceremony of a relative. Prabhupada then quoted this verse from the 11th canto, Devarshi Bhutatma Nirim Pitrinam Nakinkaro Nayam Niri Sharajam Saram Saranyam Sharamyam Saranyam Makoku Mukundangri Nishevayaiva, that if one is a devotee, one is not obligated to anyone, to relatives, to the demigods, to the sages of yore, to the animals, to the earth, to the people of the world. And Sarup Damodar ended up staying with Prabhupada and not going to north, to Assam. They were in Vrindavan or Mayapur at the time. So this takes place, that if one is born as a devotee, the obligations that one ordinarily accepts, one is automatically an heir to the demigods and to the animals and to the great sages and to the people of the world and to the earth and to the air and to the water. One is obligated and one has to feel gratitude. But if one is a devotee, all these feelings of gratitude and obligation are unnecessary, because all obligations and gratitudes are automatically assumed, are taken care of by a devotee who is born a devotee and who is, or not even born as a devotee, but who takes to devotional service. He can fulfill all these obligations. So Prabhupada is writing that one should not be, in his purport, so one should not be necessarily obligated to worldly affairs. And there's a description by the late Sridhar Swami in a book called Prabhupada, A Friend to All, written by Mula Prakriti, that Prabhupada took sannyas by leaving his family in the middle of the night. I think it was 3 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And somehow the family members, the wife and the children, they heard some rustling, but they weren't sure what it was. So although they awoke, they went back to sleep. So Prabhupada took off. He didn't have any money. He didn't take any clothing. He didn't take any money. He didn't take obligations as food. He just departed. And that's how he took the beginning of sannyas. And later he was awarded the obligation of being a sannyasi. He was awarded the principle of being a sannyasi. And it was Sridhar Maharaj who suggested that he do it gradually instead of suddenly. He said that there are 4 divisions of sannyas, and the first one is kuti-chek. That is, that one lives a short distance away from home so that the family members can bring food. Kuti-chek, and then in the final stage of sannyas, of Paramhansa, one is completely away from homely life, from worldly affairs. And when Prabhupada was living in the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, he assumed the no obligations. He was you might call him a civil dead man. So he took sannyas, and he was very keen to produce literature that would convert all the hapless human beings in this material world to Krishna consciousness. And there's even a photograph of him giving his books to the then Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri. He seemed to have been acquainted with this man. And even after he had come to America, there's an incident where he was trying to acquire a property in the west side of Manhattan through this Lal Bahadur Shastri, who knew the owners. But unfortunately, Mr. Shastri died before the transaction took place, and so Prabhupada was bereft of that property. So this is one way to renounce the world, to leave home very suddenly, and instead of gradually. And that is exactly what Prabhupada did, according to the late Sridhar Swami. Prabhupada wanted us all to comment on issues of the day, especially in Back to Godhead magazine. He was keen to do this. There were a few such articles that were written, but not very many. And I have a transcript of a conversation that took place on the 14th of December in 1970 regarding this. Hansaduta was saying, yes, I saw the original Back to Godhead. A lot of your articles, he's talking to Prabhupada, a lot of your articles were commenting about current events. Then Prabhupada answered, yes, the editorial board, meaning the editorial board of Back to Godhead, must be very intelligent how to talk about Back to Godhead with current politics. Giriraj, can you do that? Then Giriraj says, I could try. Then Prabhupada says, try. You must try it immediately. You can take one newspaper and comment on the current news. Any one of you, every one of you can do, and show me how you have given. Then we start immediately. We have got many things to do. We have Krishna, and Krishna is the Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram from Bhagavad Gita. That's the 29th verse of the 5th chapter. I think that's where it is located. That Krishna is the owner of all things, and he is the friend to everyone. There was an incident in Philadelphia when this verse was printed out, and it was described in the pamphlet that it was printed out in as the peace formula. They were striving for world peace, and of course that's a big issue these days. People do not want warfare, they don't want conflict, they don't want violence, and yet all this takes place, willingly or unwillingly, whether it's through other living entities that are inimical, whether it's through our own bad karma, or whether it's due to the destined functions of nature, like fires and earthquakes and floods and so on, great winds. They do happen, even though we don't want them to happen. So Prabhupada said that we should be relevant in our Bhakti Guided magazines. We have to show that we're not just people in that dance on the streets in pink bed sheets, but we have things to say about everything. The world, the environment, abortion, gender issues, and many, many things. We have our opinions about things, and we need to, and Prabhupada apparently used to write about his comments about some of these things, but he said that they have to be done very intelligently. They can't be just say, well, we don't believe in this or that, but we have to write in such a way that people realize that Hare Krishnas are relevant, that they have something to say. I understand that other religious organizations have a system whereby they're cognizant. Their Washington branch has relations, so they know when a bill is being discussed in the Senate or the Congress, and they send the essence of this bill while it's being discussed or before it's being discussed back to their headquarters, and the headquarters sends a letter back giving their perspective on whether what their comment is on these things. They're very important issues for all people. There are issues about health, issues about the environment, and other things that people are very concerned about violence and about warfare, things that happen that we're not very happy with, but they're issues. They affect all of us. So Prabhupada wants us to write about these things. And it's interesting in this verse that Prabhupada says that we have to discuss the nectar of your qualities in discussion with one another. So in discussion with one another is another way of saying that association is very important. Not just friendship, that I like my mother, I like my father, I like my friends, I like my brother, but there's a discussion about the pastimes and activities of Krishna. That's a very, very important kind of association. It's not a matter of fact, or we're not talking about going to the so-called going to the moon, or the newest advances in medicine or communication. We're talking about the pastimes of Krishna as he experienced in Vrindavan and what his relationship was. That kind of association is important. And when one discusses these things among other devotees, then the association becomes very important, and it can happen over and over again. So this, by association, what is meant, Dadati Pratiganati, that it's a kind of, in a sense, kind of a secret thing, an association. It's that we only have a very few people who we have intimate relationships with, like our own family, our very close friends. We don't wear our heart on our sleeves, so to speak. We're not, although we're friendly to all beings, we're not talking about the pastimes of Krishna with everyone. Prabhupada has also written that the intimate pastimes between Radha and Krishna were only discussed among a very few intimate associates of Krishna, not among the general public. Those discussions in the general public with Prakasananda and other people in the general world, that when he was going to offer pinda for the deceased forefathers and so on, he only discussed philosophy, the philosophy of Vedanta and other things. He didn't discuss these intimate things. So there's a difference between intimate discussions of Krishna's intimate pastimes, and discussions of the Vedanta philosophy, which is also very important. It's also described in Chaitanya Chaitamrita that after discussing with Prakasananda and after in a very friendly way discussing with many of his followers and sannyasis, that they became, even though they didn't get initiated by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that they became followers. So So these talks had, even though they were philosophical and they weren't intimate pastimes between Radha and Krishna, were very important, and they were very much remembered. And they were remembered because Krishna's effulgence was very great. And they could see that even though he was a newcomer or unknown person to them, that he had a special effulgence, he had a special characteristic that made him unique. And therefore, he gained a great following among people who were followers of Prakasanati. Maybe they were even initiated by him. So it's very important. And to be friendly with everyone, but not to be intimate with everyone. That's what intimacy and association are meant to be, that they're not discussions. So I'll read the verse again. They're not discussions about worldly affairs. However, this is the verse. However, persons who have given up stereotyped worldly affairs and the beastly followers of these affairs, and who have taken shelter of the umbrella of your lotus feet, by drinking the intoxicating nectar of your qualities and activities in discussions with one another, can be freed from the primary necessities of the material body. So are there any comments or questions on any of this or anything that we talked about? Anybody? Yes?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for your class. I was just wondering about that conversation that you read between Srila Prabhupada, Giriraj, and his disciples about writing commentary on what's happening in the world in the Back to Godhead magazine. I was just wondering, because sometimes devotees have a very different opinion about things, like, for example, the war that's happening between Russia and Ukraine or something like that. And I'm just wondering, if we write something like that in Back to Godhead magazine, would it be very controversial? Or it seems like it could be controversial, because some devotees have different opinions about worldly affairs or what's happening. So.
Well, as it is said, controversy sells. There are requests for devotees to write such things. And they have to be penetrating, intellectually penetrating, entertaining, and socially acceptable. Because if we write about, say, for example, the war between Russia and Ukraine, we can't just say war is bad, killing is bad, bombs are bad, and violence is unwelcome. But we have to penetrate why these things happen, why there is war, and what it means, and what it means to people who are involved and people who are not involved. And it's not just warfare, but a lot of things that happen that are unpredicted, like floods and hurricanes and earthquakes and fires and so on and so forth. So there's always and if we talk about things like this, we can't say that it's tragic or it's bad and it's unheard of and unwelcome, but we have to give some clear perspective to make it intellectually penetrating and a good story, and to make it entertaining, and something that people will remember and see that Hare Krishna has something to say about everything, not just about Krishna, how he's very beautiful and he's a good flute player and he's very compassionate and he has all these other unique qualities, and he has many unique pastimes and friends. But we have to show, Prabhupada wanted us to show, in Back to Godhead magazine particularly, how we are relevant, how we do have things to say about things that are going on. As I recall, one of such article was written by a devotee named Dharma Dhyaksha, and I don't remember too much about the article, but he was very, he's quite an educated person. I don't know what he's doing these days, but he wrote some piece about something that was going on in the world, and it was very well accepted. But as a whole, Bhakti Godhead doesn't write about things like that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with writing about internal affairs. But Prabhupada actually, according to this conversation, wanted us also to write about external things, things that concern people, like they're interested about their health, they like to go to places, to take holidays and vacations, and into nice places like this. There's a lot of trees and a lot of greenery. So that was one of what Prabhupada did in his early Back to Godheads, or even before that, he was writing about the relevance of the Vaishnavas to the world at large. And so he wanted us to carry on, according to that conversation. Yes?
I'm thinking, Maharaj, the war between Russia and Ukraine is a good example of how we can comment without being caught into the particular politics of the moment. Like I was listening to Prabhupada yesterday, and he was saying, we are born here, we're just visitors. But in that brief time that we're here, we start to claim proprietorship over this and that. None of it's ours anyway. And also like so much conflict in the world at the moment, simply due to the fact that everyone's identifying 100% with the body. No understanding of anything beyond the bodily necessities. So in that sense, I think we could comment without getting sucked into who's right and who's wrong in a particular conflict.
That's a good comment. One of the things that Prabhupada mentions is in the fifth chapter, the 29th verse of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says that he is the proprietor of all lands. So like you're saying, if one becomes attached to the bodily considerations or the country of birth, that's another famous verse, that one should not be attached to one's land of birth. That's in a sense, that's the basis of many different global conflicts that was indulged in by the likes of Genghis Khan and Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin, people like that. So if we make a comment about the war between Ukraine and Russia, then it's relevant to say why Alexander Putin doesn't like certain aspects of this of Ukrainians, and I can sympathize with him, and to a degree anyway, that there is a reason to declare war against those people, although we don't agree with it. And it's not proper according to what we read in the Bhagavad Gita, because it's based on the bodily concept or the concept that my land of birth is worshipable. Still, an intelligent comment would take into account reasons why these things happen. But that is a very rare type of writing to be done. And only a few people know how to do it. And it's like Giriraj was saying in the conversation, I'll try. And maybe he did try. But it's not evidenced in any of the magazines. And I'm not criticizing. I have a subscription to Back to God, and I like it very much, and I read it generally from cover to cover. But I'm also critical. Prabhupada encouraged what he called independent thought. And this is an example of independent thought. It doesn't mean that we love going to faraway places, or that we can communicate with people in Johannesburg or Tokyo or places far away, or we can get things from libraries in faraway places, but we have to be intelligent. And there's an incident where he told Giriraj Swami that you have to use your intelligence. In addition to following the regulated principles and chanting 16 rounds, you have to intelligently do everything. You're managing the whole of the Bombay congregation, and that requires a lot of careful thinking, independent thought. And it doesn't mean that we should abandon the regulated principles and chanting 16 rounds, but we have to be thoughtful about other things, about people's concerns. So that's a partial answer, anyway, to a very good comment. Any others?
I remember when Prabhupada was present, the Vietnam War was going on. And Prabhupada said, you kill so many innocent creatures, as a society. So he said, so you can send your sons off to be slaughtered.
It's a very interesting exchange that took place. You are killing so many animals, so send your sons to the slaughterhouse. Those are almost Prabhupada's exact words to Stephen Goldsmith, the lawyer who incorporated ISKCON. You are killing so many animals, so God is saying, send your sons to the slaughterhouse. So innocent in a way, but guilty in another way. Any other comments? Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Ki jai.